Hey everybody, welcome back to Mighty Modern. I'm Corbin Hostler, and this is Hardened Scales Humans, or allies, depending on how you want to look at it. The beauty of the human and allied tribes in Magic is that as they've printed more of each, they've converged, and it's great because you get to make decks like this. I've seen Hardened Scales versions of allies, I've seen Ether Vial versions of allies. I've not loved any of them. I especially don't like the Ether Vial versions. I think it slows the deck down, gives it too many dead draws. It speeds it up, but it gives it too many dead draws. But this is sort of a hybrid. This is humans and allies, and I think it kind of has some of the best to offer of both, because we have these really aggressive starts with Champion of the Parish and Thalia's Lieutenant that work because we're playing humans. Of course, we still have the ally synergy of the Lantern Scout here at the top, but the Ornreef Survivalists, the Had a Free Blades, etc. And this deck is just very, very aggressive. It's great. I love it. It's got a lot going for it. And we don't have a lot of dead draws. We don't have dead Ether Vials late. We have things that are always going to trigger something, with, I guess, the one exception being a late game Champion of the Parish, or Noble Hierarch maybe won't necessarily do a lot for the rest. But this deck is great. I love it. So we want to curve out with Champion of the Parish or Expedition Envoy early, or Had a Free Blade, and then we want to play, or even Hierarch, depending on how you go, right? But then we want to play Thalia's Lieutenant, which puts a 1/1 counter on each human we control, and whenever another human enters control under our battlefield, under our control, we get a counter on it. So if you have a first turn Champion of the Parish, Thalia's Lieutenant makes it a 3/3. If you have a first turn Expedition Envoy, this makes it a 3/2. Now, the great part is when you have an ally, so let's say we have a first turn Had a Free Blade, okay, it comes in and play, it's a 1/2. Then we play Thalia's Lieutenant. That's going to make it a 3/4 on turn, or I'm sorry, a 2/3 on turn 2, and then it can get even bigger. The point is Thalia's Lieutenant acts as sort of a second lord to our team, which is very, very powerful in allies. So moving on after that, of course, the big things, we have Hardened Scales. So imagine this turn where we go turn 1, Noble Hierarch, okay, turn 2, we have 3 mana, we go Hardened Scales, and Thalia's Lieutenant. All right, that's going to make stuff pretty big. This is conveniently human, and things just explode from there when you start getting double counters on your stuff. And Thalia's Lieutenant puts more counters onto the battlefield than the deck would otherwise have if we were just trying to play allies. And it grows itself, which is a really sweet card. In that way, it's sort of a secondary Ornreef Survivalist, because all of these cards are humans in addition to being allies. Now, rounding it out, of course, we have Path to Exiles, as you would expect for removal. Collected Company, obviously great in a deck like this, ties it all together. Always good. Honestly, Collected Company, outside of Merfolk, Collected Company decks are some of my favorite decks, just because this card's so great. Dragmoka's Command. Now, this is one that I hadn't seen many lists like this running, but it's so good. Not only does it give your deck a lot of flexibility in game 1, because of course you can prevent the damage from a burn spell, etc. Very powerful, as it turns out, against Anger of the Gods, a card you do have to worry about when you're playing a deck like this. You can get rid of enchantments if you need to, etc. But it also puts a counter on a creature, and with Hardened Scales in play, that means you're getting 2 counters on your creature, which you can then use to fight something else. Very powerful. Mana base, pretty simple, rounds it out. Bunch of green-white lands. Horizon Canopy, a really good one here, because it allows us, the life doesn't matter because we're trying to beat down, but we can draw a card later in the game when we need some more gas. Cavern of Souls is a nice addition. We only need green and white mana in the deck, but it does allow uncounterable, which is very important. And then a Gavany Township for, making your stuff big as needed. So moving on to the sideboard, we kind of rounded out here with just sort of the things you'd expect when you get white, which is the best sideboard color in Modern. The 4th path, in case you need it. Ava Mind Sensor against decks that want to search, namely this is for Scape Shift. Gaddock Teak for combo, Scape Shift, etc. Control, very good card all around. And we can even name, not that casting it should be a problem, but we could name Kithkin with our Cavern of Souls if we needed to. Chrysalis Pride Mage, again, just flexibility. If you're playing against Boggles, which is a deck you have to worry about, even if it's not, a tier 1 deck. Chrysalis Pride Mage is never bad due to having Exalted, but it also just has flexibility. You can board it in wherever you want. Thalia, Guardian of Thraben for the ramp decks, the control decks, the combo decks, really is nice because it's a human and will get pumped by Thalia's Lieutenant, but also just really makes interaction, board wipes, etc. difficult for opponents. Stony Silence, as you'd expect. Affinity, Lantern, blah, blah, blah. Rest in peace for the graveyard decks. Selfless Spirit. Now, this is one I've been playing in more and more Modern decks recently as a test. And I think it's good. The idea is our deck needs something, and you've heard me talk about it already. When you play against a red deck, and Titan Shift is really big right now, you need something against Anger of the Gods. Because imagine where we do everything I just talked about, and we have 3/3 Toughness creatures on turn 3, and our opponent wipes them all away, and then is ramping towards winning. We're never going to get back in that game. We've lost the game at that point. Selfless Spirit is a 2-drop that will protect your team from that, but it also is an evasive threat. It's just a flyer that pokes in for 2 every turn, and for when you're going to have to play cards that are maybe inherently weaker to protect your team from a certain spell, may as well have one that can fly and attack for 2 damage. It's great. Undo Cleric is a pretty sweet one. This is my favorite anti-burn tech in probably all of Modern. It's just absurd how out of control this thing gets. So it comes into play, you gain... When it or another ally comes into play, you gain life equal to the number of allies you control. So if you've ever collected Company 1 or 2 of these into play, etc., it gains a lot of life. Resolving this against burn is almost game over. Really a lot of aggressive decks you board it in against, so pretty sweet. All right, so that's the deck. Hardened Scales Humans, even though it's kind of a humans allies mix, but it's a lot of fun. I know that. I love these green-white collected company value decks that seemingly are all over Modern and quite good. So I think it's going to be a fun one, so let's go ahead and give it a shot. Thank you for watching.